I'm Logan Therrien. I'm a consultant and assessor with Kieri Solutions, and I do have some things I would love to show that are my favorite parts of dealing with the KCD and the folks that we work with. So I kind of broke it down into some focal points for each section, but I think maybe a good way to start off with is the SSP itself.
Okay. Well, let me share my screen here. And so this is the system security plan. And you can see on the left side, we've got all of our table of contents. The general, so this system security plan is based very heavily upon the NIST system security plan template for 80171, but we have, of course, done a lot of improvements, made it prettier, and added a ton of instructions to try and make sure that as you're going through this, you understand what the questions are and giving you examples for how you can answer them. So Logan, what part of the system security plan should I go look at first?
I would like to start with 3.2 facilities. So
okay.
This is a comprehensive SSP. When I look at what other companies are using, and then this KCD provides about 200 pages, and it's not all the answer, but there are some solutions in here for you to choose from, and that's why I want to start with this 3.2, because it's not just an empty shell. I have seen some products out there where you think you're going to get, I think I'm going to get an answer on how to do it, but it ends up just being just a shell to put the data that you have to figure out yourself and then mark whether or not it meets those requirements. That's not what this is. This KCD is not that. It does provide solutions that either A, are already meeting your requirements, or meet the environment that you're in. They actually describe it. Or that are very close to what your environment is, and you can just modify. You can tailor it to what reality is. For example, if you start off with this, I believe it goes, if you're 100% cloud-based, here's an answer you can put in. It is marked gray. Gray is a color we use to indicate that these are suggestions that you can choose from. But then, if maybe you're 100% cloud-based, and then maybe you're not 100% cloud-based. Maybe you're in a hybrid environment. We have examples of what you can write in that. So my background is policy and procedure development. I've did it for about 20 plus years in the DoD, and anytime a new policy came out, I would have to come up with this from scratch, right? I would do my best to pull from other policies that existed, but eventually it was me figuring out how to write this in a way that met the intent, didn't go overboard, wasn't an underachiever. So that's why I get excited about this, because it provides a solution that I looked for so many years.
It's so much easier to look at a text like this that is generally appropriate, right? It's talking about best practices, and modify it slightly to match your environment, than to try and come up with an answer from complete scratch. It's like what's the best way to get an answer on the internet? Put the wrong answer out, right? It's like an instant way to solve for writer's block, because you read through and you go, okay, windows and manufacturing areas have been obscured with curtains or one-way reflective film. Actually, we maybe we do it a different way. We have sliding grates, right? Well, we're just going to change that piece and move through it really quite easily. Another part of the SSP that I wanted to show you guys is, let's see, it's 3.1.13, remote access confidentiality. So this is just, for every practice, we've got the standard information, right? The requirement, whether it's implemented or not. We give a recommendation on who should be responsible. And this all assumes that you have a 1.5 person IT department, right? We assume that you're a very, very small IT department. So we we give the CIO responsibility to your main sysadmin, and then the CISO is either the second person you have who's a security-oriented person, or you could even pull in an outside consultant for, say, 1 or 2 hours a month and perform this program. It actually will work with that little amount of cybersecurity labor. So we include each of the assessment objectives. Very, very, very important, because that's what you're actually going to be assessed upon. So you need to have them right there in your SSP so you can look at them. And then we give instructions where necessary when something is confusing, right? Where there's a lot of misunderstandings about things. We will throw in information in this yellow highlighted text. That's so you can read it and make sure you're on the same page of what you actually need to do from an assessment standpoint, right? So that the assessors on our team, we know what passes. We're telling you what you need to do here. And then for each of the requirements, we have black text, which is referencing the other pieces of the KCD. So if we have a policy that talks to it, we'll list that. If we have a administrative procedure or a form or a database, we'll talk about each of those things. And then we have example text for how, again, best practice, you can perform these technical requirements. We don't know what your technical environment is. We can't guess. But what we can do is we can tell you what a generally acceptable answer should look like, right? What would make an assessor very happy if they saw it? And all you have to do is modify. What's next, Logan?
Yeah, so I do think that 3.13.6 is another good example for a technical example.
All right, let me get down there.
That's
okay.
Deny by default firewalls. Just another example.
So let me show you what that looks like. So this is deceptively simple, because as an assessor, we really just need to see that you're denying by default, allowing by exception. However, the actual implementation of it is kind of complicated. So what we have done is we have shown you how to document those firewall rules to show that you actually are allowing by exception. And that's down in Appendix A. So let me show you a little bit what that looks like. So Appendix A is used as evidence for multiple requirements related to your ports, protocols, functions, programs, and the networking side. And we show you, this is actually a list of ports and protocols that will work for most back office functions, right? Word, web browsing, Windows computers. So we really do add a lot of value here, and this would make an assessor extremely happy to see it, assuming it matches what you're actually doing. And it actually will pass, I think, about 6 or 7 assessment objectives spread across, I think, 3 requirements. Just with this, right? And that's a trend. That's something that you'll see across the KCD, is if you are able to adopt this documentation and follow it by itself, right? Just this manual procedures, policies, forms, databases, they address about 70% of the requirements in CMMC just by getting this package, right? It's a huge help. All right, Logan, what's next?
So I'd like to take a step back for just a moment here for the SSP itself. If working, this is from my experience on both sides, either being an employee, a new employee, a program manager to make sure that the functions are going the way I think they're going, that my people are trained well, but also from assessor perspective. This SSP is so comprehensive that if we just take a look at sections 1 through 3, right? So if I look at this SSP, how can it be useful other than just pass an assessment that once a year, program management throughout the year, but also just employees understanding how the programs work. If we take a look at section 1 through 3, I'm going to send this over there. Mira, would you be able to just bring up the table for that side? It is. Oh, there it is. Just for the headings. In sections 1 through 3, if I'm just trying to understand what my environment is, what answers do I need to have? How does my environment function? What are the key things that I need to pay attention to? It is, if you look at your system environment, that's section 3, it is a way for you to understand, all right, what do I need to know? How am I going to understand that scope, right? So just by going through this section and answering those questions in the templated form that exists there, you are understanding what you don't know. And I think that's important when you're trying to develop a program, when you're trying to implement a program, is what are the right questions to ask here? And by understanding, going through this, well, I don't know this answer. All right, let's get that answer, right? Understanding where your focus should be and trying to develop your scope, understand your data flow, understand who's involved, what certifications do they need to be involved with my program. Just going through that section will help you understand what you don't know. And then when you do know it, it'll help everybody else understand that full picture very well.
All right, let's look at a couple other things just to show you that this program is not just a system security plan.
Okay.
So this is an example of one of our policies, and you'll see it looks like a normal policy. It's in Word. Everything is editable. There's nothing that once you get it, you've got it forever. So you're not going to have to pay some website to keep access to your own data, right? This is intended to be kept on an IT department file store so that you can manage it long term, never lose it. And then, of course, if you've been paying attention to CMMC, there's those concerns about the security protection data. This program is designed to be kept inside of your secure environment so that you are not going to have any issues with offloading your SSP or your compliance information to a third party and potentially getting in trouble if they're not FedRAMP approved. So the policies are written, again, to be understandable to your regular IT people, right? It's not in cybersecurity ease. We have taken the requirements and translated them into actionable statements that make sense to real people. So that's an example of a policy. Let me see what else. We've got, so this right here, this CUI marking template, this is just showing you the breadth of what the KCD has. Again, remember, we built this for ourselves. We've been running our IT department using these documents for the last 4 years, okay? And we realized that we needed, access request forms and publication review procedures. We needed audit log procedures, right? We needed all these extra stuff that are not policies in order to perform all the requirements in a repeatable way. And one of them that we built up is how to mark CUI properly, right? because you don't want your users trying to figure this out ad hoc, you know, for each user. What you should actually be doing is, for your company, figure out the types of CUI you have, and then figure out how to create those designation indicators and the markings properly for the different types of CUI, and disseminate it to your users so that all they have to do is copy and paste whenever they need to create a CUI document, right, to label it properly. So this is just one of the random things we created, which is incredibly helpful to a lot of companies, so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you're trying to mark CUI properly. Let's see, what else do we have?
Can I add something about the policies too? The policies and the procedures.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of fluff in these documents. For a majority of the paragraphs are specifically tied to an assessment objective. And I think that's important because, again, we don't want to make people do things that they're not responsible for, track things that aren't really required. And then when things aren't a requirement, there's a note typically of this is a best practice, or that this is something that was in CMMC level 1 that was taken out during level 2, but we left it in as a best practice. And again, that's a note. So if you choose to get rid of it, that's an option. And in some of those cases, they actually come back in the future. So that's still, I'm still a firm belief that's the best practice and should be kept in. But again, you have that option and it's annotated, so you're not taking on board requirements that aren't actually required now.
Right, right. What you're talking about is we saw some of the requirements for CMMC version 1 get removed, and then they came back with the 80171 Rev 3. So where it's the nice thing is it's fully editable, right? You're in control of your own program. You don't have to stay inside the lines. If you need to adjust it, it can be adjusted. So let me show you our change approval board meeting template. I talked a little bit about how that change management process is really key. Well, if you have a monthly change approval board meeting and you go through the items on this template, you're going to be hitting about 10 different requirements that need to be monitored on an ongoing basis. And you're showing that you're performing oversight of privileged activities, right? So the intent of this template is you're going to be creating a new copy every month, saving that to your IT department, and that's showing excellent evidence that you have been performing change management over time. Next, we have the Cybersecurity Maintenance Checklist, and this is for the rest of those reoccurring tasks. So this checklist, you're going to be creating a copy once a week. We recommend doing it on Tuesdays. It's just a random day. And depending on what week of the month it is, what week of the quarter it is, you're going to be doing different tasks. So every week, you're going to be performing these weekly tasks, and you're going to be putting in the date that you performed the task, who you are, and some work notes. And I can show you a quick example of what that might look like. Right. This is amazing evidence for assessors. This is evidence that you're doing about 40 or 50 requirements, okay? And performing that overall control and monitoring to make sure that your security requirements, your implementations are still effective. And you're going to have, at the end of a year, 52 copies of this checklist, which are split into weekly, monthly, quarterly, biannual, and annual tasks to show that you're doing each of the items on a schedule as necessary. Let's see what else. Here's a quick example of a database. We've defined, key databases that you really need to have for tracking the information and showing that you're performing CMMC. For example, the software inventory database includes what mobile code is authorized, as well as the responsible party last reviewed by. That shows authorization right there, right? In between that and your change management process, it shows active control of your software. And we also, like I mentioned, if you happen to be a Office user with SharePoint, these databases can be imported into your IT department SharePoint very easily. And now you've got these easy to use forms with fields that, as long as you fill them out, you're going to be gathering all the information you need to make an assessor very happy with you. All right, shall we go back to the presentation, or is there anything that we should be?
There are a couple things I'd still like to discuss. The things that again make me happy about this product. But it's an SSP.
Okay.
So there's times where during assessments I see that there may be a misunderstanding of what the actual requirement is, what the practice requirement is. Something else this SSP allows you to do is have an understanding check, a verification of what you think it is compared to what is already written in there for a method of accomplishing it. For example, 333 for logging. Right, so review and update. What is the actual requirement for updating logged events, right? And so this may be different than what you thought it was, but it provides examples and an explanation of what you should expect to accomplish with this practice. And if it's different than what you thought it was, maybe that goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, is finding the right questions to ask, or just a complete shift in mindset of what you thought your readiness was supposed to be. Right. So again, just a great thing about the SSP. And preparing your organization for your assessment.
And this shows a nice example of how the SSP ties into each of the other documents. So if you're trying to figure out how to perform this requirement, you open up the audit management policy, go to that section, and it's going to talk about exactly what the policy requires us to do. The Cybersecurity Maintenance Checklist, right? You go find that task, and it's going to have the procedures to review alert and logging settings and update them. The cyber incident, right? The form that is completed as part of a cyber incident and the procedure for cyber incidents includes questions about, hey, did we have the correct events being logged? Do we need to change what our settings are as a result of this incident? And then it matches out to the different databases for record keeping. And you'll note, right, we've got each of the assessment objectives tagged for which thing handles them, which helps you understand exactly, what you're doing for A, and it also helps the assessors go straight to that answer.
Right, and so even that form right there, I can't tell you how much time I've spent trying to figure out how to make process better in whatever I've been working in. And typically, it's something that's been missed, something that wasn't noticed, something not identified. And then sometimes the answer is, hey, let's have a form. Let's fill that out, right? Because this is information that has to pass back and forth with people. Now, that form is not a requirement, but when you have to have a DibNet reporting and things are going bad, you're trying to fix it, right? What is all the information I need to report? What's all the important information? That form already provides that template. That work has already been done for you. So again, just preparation. I don't know if you mentioned this, Samira, but I think that we're over 900 hours. So a single person would take about a half a year to develop all these policies and procedures. Just a keynote.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do have a question.
Okay.
So does the KCD address template configuration baselines and or help identify what you actually need configuration baselines for?
So it does talk about those requirements, right? Configuration baselines are edging onto the technical side of things. So there's only so much that we can talk to, but let's go look. This right here talks about the security configuration guide, right? How you pick it. So to perform this requirement, you need to actually go pick a security configuration recommendation from a vendor, from the government, from a cybersecurity organization. So it gives you that template of, hey, you need to talk to which guide you're applying, right? Whether that's a STIG, whether that's a CIS benchmark, and you need to do it for each of your systems. The configuration management policy talks about picking, a secure configuration and applying them during new system builds, so that that's actually one of the requirements for. It's in the section for new system builds. Is here's all the things you need to make sure that new system does, right? Multi-factor audit logging, the ability to patch it, right? FIPS if necessary. So it does talk to that. If you really want to get into security configuration baselines, that starts moving over to our other product, which is the reference architecture, which we put in hundreds of hours on that baseline, so that people can build their own environment and have it extremely secure and ready for CUI.
Thanks, Mary. If the shared response, I'm sorry, the self-assessment template. So that's, again, kind of another thing when I'm working with new clients. One of their concerns is that they're being asked to provide a SPUR score right off the bat from their client. I think it might be worth just showing what tools we have available with the KCD to be able to support that.
Oh, absolutely. So we include a self-assessment template, and it's very similar to the template that we actually use as assessors as a C3PAO for the real thing. But essentially, we give you instructions, right? How you should do it. You should enter notes about the evidence you reviewed, and that's real simple because you're going to be going through the system security plan and going to check all those things that the system security plan says that are how you implement it, right? And as you go down, you're going to be, writing notes, right? Reviewed policy, reviewed whatever the name of the form is, right? Access request form. And you can then mark it satisfied, not satisfied, as needed, right? So as you go down this list, you get the nice tracking that you're going to want to show your executives. So, if you're not doing everything, well, then we can show some red in there, right? And be able to give you that nice summary chart and visual that normally you can only get from a monthly paid for GRC website. We also have these tracking charts, so you can see how you're going through, right? Whether you've assessed everything, whether you have an SSP. By the way, if you have the KCD, you have an SSP, so that's That's good, right?